Watcher of the Forgotten Kingdom. The wind carried the scent of rain and ancient stone as Caelan stood at the edge of the cliff, his cloak snapping behind him like a banner of exile. Below, the valley stretched into gold and shadow, cut by a winding river that shimmered beneath the dying sun. At its heart stood the ruins, arches broken like ribs, towers swallowed by ivy, and a cathedral of pale stone half consumed by time. Eldoria, the Forgotten Kingdom. Caelan had not spoken its name in years. He rested one gloved hand on the hilt of his sword, though no enemy stirred in the open. The enemy had always been silence. Silence and memory. He had been young when the kingdom fell, just old enough to remember the bells ringing as the sky burned green and the earth trembled beneath sorcery no mortal mage could command. He had been a squire then. Now he was the watcher. The last one. He descended the rocky path as twilight bled into violet. Each step carried him closer to the ruins and deeper into the weight of his oath. The watchers had been charged with guarding Eldoria's heart, the Aetherwell, a source of ancient magic buried beneath the cathedral. When the kingdom collapsed, the Aetherwell had not. It had only slept. And sleeping power was often more dangerous than waking fury. As Caelan crossed the valley floor, fireflies flickered among the tall grass. The river whispered against smooth stones, as though it remembered songs no living tongue could sing. He reached the cathedral steps just as the first stars appeared. Vines curled around shattered pillars, and faint motes of light drifted upward from within, like embers rising from a dying hearth. He climbed the steps slowly. Inside, the air hummed. The roof had fallen away centuries ago, leaving the sanctuary open to the sky. Moonlight poured down in a silver column, illuminating the cracked marble floor. At its center yawned a circular chasm, the mouth of the Aetherwell. Pale blue light pulsed faintly from its depths, steady as a heartbeat. Caelan knelt at its edge. "I remain," he whispered, as he had every night for 20 years. "I remain and I watch." The words felt thin against the vast silence. But tonight something answered. The blue glow deepened, shifting toward white. The hum sharpened into a note that vibrated in his bones. Caelan rose swiftly, hand on his sword. From the chasm's depths, light spiraled upward in ribbons, weaving together into a shape, a figure formed of brilliance and memory. A woman stood before him, translucent and crowned with a circlet of starlight. Queen Erilyn. He staggered back, breath stolen from his lungs. "Your Majesty." Her voice carried like wind over water. Caelan Thorne. Faithful to the end. He had not heard his name spoken with such warmth since boyhood. "Are you truly here?" "I am what remains," she replied. "A fragment bound to the Aetherwell." Stirs watcher. "You feel it." He did. Beneath the cathedral, power gathered like a rising tide. "It is awakening," she continued. "And with it, the memory of Eldoria." "Is that not what we hoped for?" he asked. Her luminous gaze dimmed. "Hope must be tempered by wisdom. When the kingdom fell, it was not destroyed by enemies alone. We reached too greedily into the well. We sought to command what should only be guarded." Caelan remembered the sky burning. "If it wakes fully," she said, "it will call to those who hunger for power. Armies will march. Sorcerers will tear the earth apart to claim it." He looked down into the glowing abyss. Already the pulse quickened. "What would you have me do?" he asked quietly. "You are the last watcher," the queen said. "The choice is yours. Seal the well forever, and let Eldoria fade into true oblivion. Or allow it to rise again, and risk the world repeating our folly." The wind moved through the broken cathedral like a sigh. For 20 years, Caelan had believed his duty simple: guard the well until Eldoria could be restored. But restoration and resurrection were not the same. He had seen kingdoms born from ambition. He had watched them crumble. "What would you choose?" he asked her. A faint smile touched her spectral lips. "A queen does not answer when a watcher must decide." The light flared brighter, as though impatient. Caelan stepped to the chasm's edge. Heat brushed his face, though the glow was cool as moonlight. He could feel its promise: strength beyond mortal limits, cities rising from ruin, banners snapping in proud wind. He also felt its hunger. Slowly, he removed the sigil ring from his finger, the mark of the Watchers. Silver etched with runes older than Eldoria itself. The ring had been forged for one purpose: to bind the well should it ever awaken beyond control. He had hoped never to use it. Caelan closed his eyes and remembered laughter echoing through palace halls. Knights sparring in sunlit courtyards. A kingdom vibrant and flawed and alive. Then he remembered the screams. "I will not let it happen again," he said. He leapt. The queen's cry followed him as he plunged into the column of light. The world became brilliance and thunder. Power roared around him, ancient and furious. He drove the ring downward into the very heart of the glow. Runes ignited. The Aetherwell screamed. Light exploded outward, shattering what remained of the cathedral walls. Across the valley, the river surged as if struck by a storm. Caelan felt himself dissolving, not in pain but in release. His oath burned through him, becoming something vast and unbreakable. The well's pulse faltered, then stilled. Silence fell over Eldoria. When dawn rose over the valley, the ruins stood quiet beneath a pale sky. The chasm in the cathedral floor had sealed, replaced by smooth stone etched with silver lines that glimmered faintly. And upon the highest cliff overlooking the forgotten kingdom stood a figure of stone. A man cloaked against the wind, hand resting on the hilt of a sword. The Watcher remained, not as guardian of a rising empire, but as eternal sentinel over a power that would never again endanger the world. Travelers who passed through the valley in years to come would speak of the statue. Some claimed it watched them. Others said it wept at night when the moon was full. But none knew his name, only that he stood where legends fell, and that beneath his silent vigil, the forgotten kingdom finally slept. When dawn rose over the valley, it did not blaze, it softened. Mist drifted low across the river, curling around broken pillars and crumbling arches as if the land itself exhaled after a long, unbearable vigil. The cathedral no longer hummed with restless power. The chasm at its center had sealed into a smooth circle of stone, etched with silver runes that glowed faintly, then slowly dimmed, then faded into quiet permanence. The Aetherwell was no more. Only balance remained. On the highest cliff overlooking Eldoria stood a lone figure of stone, cloak frozen mid-billow, hand resting on the pommel of a sword, face lifted toward the horizon as though watching for something only he could see. Caelan Thorne did not fall into oblivion. The well had taken his mortal breath, but it had bound his oath into the land itself. The last Watcher had become something older than kingdom and crown, a guardian not of power, but of restraint. Seasons passed. Grass grew over shattered roads. Birds nested in broken towers. The river continued its patient journey toward distant seas. Without the well's whisper, no warlords came. No sorcerers clawed at the earth. Eldoria faded not in fire, but in peace. Travelers who wandered into the valley spoke in hushed tones of its strange serenity. They felt watched but not threatened. protected but not claimed. And when they looked to the cliff, they always found the statue standing firm against wind and storm. Some swore that on nights when the moon burned bright and silver, the stone figure's eyes shimmered faintly with blue light. Not with hunger, not with ambition, but with remembrance. The forgotten kingdom had not been restored. Its banners would never rise again. Its halls would never echo with laughter. But neither would it fall twice. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, where reckless power once churned, there remained only silence, held fast by a vow stronger than magic. The Watcher remained, not as a relic of loss, but as proof that sometimes, the greatest act of heroism is choosing to let a legend end. And in that ending the world endured.